Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you guys are doing well out there, and welcome to the Caserna show on this lovely damp Tuesday. It's supposed to be nicer weather down the week, but you know how Oklahoma is. That's a fucking toss up. But anyways, what I was wanting to talk about today is the whole conversation about banned films or banning films, as well as a few controversial films. Because I was thinking about this. There are actually very few films that are truly banned. Like even the films that people consider some of the most infamously, outrageously offensive films are films you can still get. Like, for example, one film that people consider like the most one of, if not the most controversial film, is Sailor 120's 20 Days of Sodom. And you can buy on. I bought that for a 2 disc Criterion collection. Like that film, you can buy. A Serbian film is another film that people consider like one of the most controversial films out there. You can buy down a Criterion Collection. Pink Flamingos, that's another movie. You can buy down DVD. You can buy Cannibal Holocaust. You can buy The Last Temptation of Christ. Like pretty much most films that are considered banned films or like outlawed films where like you can't watch them in several countries, you can actually just straight up go and buy them like on Criterion, on third party sites, or like you can just buy them on Amazon, or hell, even some of them are fucking free on YouTube. But funny enough, the one movie that is actually, I mean, if you want to consider banned, is Song of the South, the Disney film. That is one film that you cannot really find anywhere. Like Disney, they made it a mission to make that film as impossibly inaccessible as possible. Because that film, you cannot find that on any streaming service. You cannot find that. You can't even damn near pirate this movie. Like it is just straight up removed from existence. And the only way I was able to actually watch this movie was on YouTube. Somebody posted what was a quote unquote review in quotations, which was actually just a movie. So it kind of got around being a movie, it's a review. And after watching Song of the South, I have to say the controversy around this film is very just puzzling to me because when I was watching the film, it became very clear to me that this film is just astoundingly boring. Like, this film has nothing going for it, really. Outside of the animated sequences and the Zippity Zoodah, the fucking Uncle Remus song. Besides that, like, this movie has nothing going for it. The characters have the personality of a piece of wheat toast. The story is just kind of whatever. The characters are forgettable. And like the whole controversy around this movie is more interesting than the actual movie. Like I can't even see like what is actually that offensive about the film because the whole or one of the main arguments that people have for this film is like, well, it has a positive view of slavery. It shows black people who are slaves that are happy being slaves and are happy with being property. And after watching the film, I just don't see how that's even. Well, I take it back. I can see from a certain perspective how that could be the case. And what I mean by that is there are scenes that could lead you to believe that they are slaves. Like there's the one scene where you got the black workers that are walking down the trail singing what pretty much is like slave songs. And there are scenes where you could kind of see like that they are slaves, but at the same time, I never really got that. And also, the fact that Uncle Remus could just straight up leave when he wanted to and just go shows that they're not slaves. Like at the end of the movie or near the end of the movie, when Uncle Remus is talking to Johnny's mom tells Remus that she doesn't want him telling Johnny any more stories, and so he takes a shit and just leaves. And so, like, I mean, if he was a slave, he couldn't do that. Like, he couldn't just up and pack all his stuff and get on the fucking horse and buggy and leave. And even when he came back, like, he could still leave then. Like, it wasn't like they were upset that he left. Like, they're gonna go fucking send a slave hunter after him. Like, he was just able to go. So, yeah, the whole idea that this movie is like a pro-slavery movie is just fucking nonsense. But I will say that the one thing that I did like about the film is the anime sequences. That is the saving grace of this film. If they did not have the animated sequences, this film would just be fucking abysmal to watch. And also, I feel like it is tragic that the Brer animals, Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, and Brer Fox. I think it is tragic that these characters have been victims of being in a film that is pretty much like a banned film, pretty much, and being kind of attached to this film because I think that that was like the best part of this film. And also, the dynamic between these three is pretty enjoyable. Like, it's almost reminiscent of like classic Looney Tunes, like Wile E. Coyote, Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd. Like, they have that type of dynamic. And honestly, I feel like these three characters, if they had like their own series or their own show, or hell, like even their own separate like animated movie, I feel like they could pull that off. Like, I don't think there's like a lot of controversy around those characters. Well, I guess there kind of is, like with Tar Baby, but like I don't know. I feel like if you remove these characters from the Song of the South, film, and just kind of gave them their own type of series, like their own type of product to do, I think that they could actually be pretty good. Like, I think there could have been a ton of nice, cool, short Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox type of series. And we are never probably going to get that because I do not see this film ever coming out. And not only do I ever see this film not coming out, well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe not ever, but I'll put it this way: I don't see this film coming out anytime soon. I don't think this film is going to come out probably for at least like maybe another 5, 10. That's being gracious. Probably like another like 10, 15, 20 years. So, yeah, these characters are probably just going to be not lost, but they're just going to be pretty much like blacklisted characters. Like, it's kind of fucking wild to think about blacklisted cartoon characters. Like, you think about blacklisted actors for, whatever reason. But like, rarely has there been like blacklisted cartoon characters. Like, there are cartoon characters that like just cannot be seen or shown or put on TV again for no reason. Like, there are very few cartoon characters. Like, the only other characters that I can think of that are kind of like blacklisted characters are, I guess, technically the crows from Dumbo because they weren't in the Tim Burton live action remake, and then they also weren't in the 100 Year Once Upon a Studio YouTube video. And then I guess like the characters from the Censored 11 from the Warner Brothers shorts from back in the day. I guess you could consider those characters blacklisted characters, but it's kind of fucking wild just to think that there are cartoon characters that are not canceled, but are like pretty much like blacklisted because like they're just attached to something that has such a strongly negative reception to it and this perception about it that like they just cannot be put like in anything even outside of that. So that's unfortunate because I really do think that those characters have been deprived of a lot of good content that they could have been making over the years. And so yeah, that's that was my assessment of Song of the South because like I was curious of seeing this film just because of all the talk about it. And because the film is nearly impossible to find, I only was able to see clips of it on YouTube, but I was never able to actually watch the full film. But after watching the full film, I don't really get all the talk about, like, I get more the Gone with the Wind conversation than this. Like, and I don't even agree with that, but I kind of get more of like the not the outrage, but more of the controversy with that film than this one. Because this, at least with Gone with the Wind, there's like actual substance there. There's like actually like depth to the film and the characters. With this, there's just fucking nothing. Like, but outside the cartoon characters and the anime segments, there's just fucking nothing to this film. But also, on that note, speaking of Gone to Win, that is actually the second film we're going to be talking about today. It's kind of weird how, I mean, maybe not weird, but it's kind of interesting how this film and Song of the South, I mean, they have similar, I guess. I mean, that's kind of stretching it, I guess. They have, I guess, similar things. They're both from the same period. They're both kind of infamously controversial for similar reasons, because they're both like viewed as like pro-slavery, pro-Confederacy films. But Gone with the Wind, I don't know. I don't think this is a hot take or anything like that, but I don't think this film is really that offensive. And also, I don't think this film is really pro-slavery. I think this film, if it does have like a main theme, I think one of the themes that Gone with the Wind has that I really haven't seen a lot of people talk about is that it's a somewhat anti-war film. Because one of the things that I thought was fascinating about this film is the progression of the perception of war throughout the film. Because at the beginning of the movie, when it's announced that the Civil War is going to happen, like everybody in the fucking mansion is ecstatic. Like all the guys are like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to war." Like all the women are cheering. Like everybody is fucking ecstatic that there's a war happening. But then as the movie goes on, like this becomes a fucking bleak, desolate nightmare where like all these people are dead, all these, people that were friends and family are all fucking torn apart now because of the war. There's this endless amounts of dead bodies. People are fucking suffering from traumatic injuries or bleeding out. And there's that scene where there's like just nothing but all these soldiers that are just wounded and dead. And it just quickly turns from this very jovial, excited spectacle of like, oh, we get to go to war to like, wow, this is fucking horrible. Like, everyone's dead. The fucking country's pretty much destroyed. There's no like fucking. I mean, there's civilization, but like pretty much like cities, villages, towns are gone. Families are broken up. You know, pedestrians and civilians are all fucking, just killed in the crossfires. Like it becomes a really like nightmarish scenario throughout the film. And it kind of shows like how war is not, this wonderful, you know, wonderful adventure to go on. Like it is a very, destructive, bleak, desolate type of war, type of event that does not really serve anyone anything at the end. Like no one really wins at the end because pretty much almost everyone ends up fucking dead at the end. And so that was one takeaway I took from it. Is like I thought that was one of the main themes. Is that it's a someone. I mean, I don't think that's like the main theme of it, but that was what I first noticed when I watched it. That it has a fairly strong kind of anti-war sentiment of like showing how war is not, you know, not honorable per se, but it's not, this wonderful, exciting, adventurous thing that should be happily accepted and wanted to be seeked out. Like it's something that should be like a last resort and it should be taken very seriously. Like, there's some characters that you see like at the end of film who at the beginning were like very happy about the war. And at the end they're like, God damn, like all my family are dead, my friends are dead, my fucking town's gone, like I have fucking nothing now. Like you see this progression of people quickly realizing like, wow, this is actually just fucking horrible. Like this is not good. Like the whole country's just fucked right now. Like there is nothing good in this. And so I thought that was an interesting because I've never seen anyone as much as I've heard people talk about this film. I've never heard anyone really talk about that aspect, which I thought was pretty prominent from the beginning. But then also, I guess I wouldn't say the most famous part of this film is Mammy. Mammy obviously has been the center of a lot of controversy. Because Mammy's looked at as like the blueprint for the degrading, dehumanizing black woman stereotype, especially during slavery. And when it comes to Mammy, I'm kind of mixed because I don't see Mammy in the light that some people do. Because I know there are some people who see Mammy as like I wouldn't say heroic, but like a very, very motherly. Like she's like the head of the house. Like she takes charge, she takes initiative. And everyone listens to her. And I mean that's true to a degree, but I mean at the same time, the fact remains she is a slave. Like unlike in Song of the South, where Uncle Remus was not a slave and he just kind of lived on the land there. Mammy is a slave. She is owned. by these people, and we don't know how long she's been owned by these people, but she's presumably been with this family for a long time. I mean, it's possible she's been a slave with them for since she was a kid, actually, or very young at least. And so yeah, I always kind of factor in as like, I mean, yeah, she's like a kind of parental figure, and she kind of has like some authority, but at the same time, like she is property. Like, I mean, that's just a fact. Like, she is property, and she's owned by these people, and she does have boundaries that she cannot step over. Like, I mean, yeah, she'll kind of give the children, a rough talking to, and tell them they need to eat their breakfast, and they need to dress right and act ladylike. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but as far as like having any real power in the film, like as far as like having any type of authority, I mean, not really. I mean, because she's at the end of the day, like beyond being this property, she's like their caretaker. That's one of her, job duties is to be a caretaker. Um, and that's not to say that Mammy is like a bad character, because I think she is like one of the highlights of the movie. I think that she is one of the characters that, like, despite all that happens, for the most part, she kind of keeps a level head. She tries to keep the house together, even when the war starts to get like the worst, like when the war really starts to escalate and everything just starts to go to shit. Mammy really tries to keep everything together. She tries to keep the house together, and so I think she's a good character, but I don't see her as the great character, like it being like the best character is like, oh, she's like like the best character in the film. I don't think so. Honestly, I'm not sure who I'd even consider in a movie like this who would be like the best character. I think there's like a few that you could consider as like the best, but I wouldn't consider Memmy like the best of them. But then again, I don't know. Like, 'cause when I really think about the other characters, I really can't say I'm a fan of most of the other characters. Like, they're okay, but I mean, Mammy, like as far as like personality wise, like it's hard to kind of rival in this film like her personality, because like she does have a strong personality. But at the same time, while I don't kind of give the overabundance of praise to Mammy as a character that some people do, I don't also have the strong negative criticism of Mammy that some people do. Because some people look at Mammy and think that there's nothing redeeming about her, that she's just strictly property, she's just a slave. She is the embodiment of every negative stereotype, or most, for black women, especially the ones that are in slavery. And I don't agree with that either, because like I said, like Mammy, for being a slave and for being property, she does actually have a character. Like, yeah, and she's not like she doesn't, to me, act in a just a cartoonishly, racially stereotypical way. I mean, obviously, she does kind of have like I guess we call it like the slave accent, in the way she pronunciates. But like, she is like a character. Like, like I was saying earlier, like she keeps a level head during like stressful situations. She is very motherly in a lot of aspects to the children. She's somewhat, she not somewhat, she is pretty respected by, everybody. I don't think there's anybody in the film actually that really dislikes Mammy, or actually like kind of degrades Mammy. I think everyone pretty much likes her. Like, even near the end of the film, when like there's soldiers that are there, like they even listen to her. So like I don't agree with like her being the worst character and there being no merit to her character, because I think she is a pretty good character. I don't think she's the best character, because I've seen that on, especially like on YouTube. I've seen people say like Mammy's the best character, and everyone, like people should aspire to be Mammy. Now that I don't agree with. I don't think anyone really should aspire to be Mammy. Obviously, for very very obvious reasons, I don't think that's something you should aspire to. But yeah, so that's one of the more infamous or famous parts of Song of the South. But other than the whole being pro slavery, now that's the other thing that people talk about with this movie, is like it's a pro slavery movie, or like it's a romanticizing of slavery, which I guess you could say that to a degree, but I don't either. Like I don't, and maybe this is just me being very naive on this, but I don't really think this film has a commentary, or at least a real deep commentary on slavery and racial dynamics. I don't think it does. Like, I mean, it kind of, skirts with the issue, with at the end of the movie. Oh, what do they call it? It's like the abolitionist movement where they come by, and they're like trying to like get black people to vote, and yeah, you got like oh, what's his name? I think it's Little John or Big John, one of the slaves uh at the main house. I think he like helps a Confederate uh soldier at one point. Like, I just don't think that, like, really looking at the movie, I don't think this film has like any deep, commentary on slavery or race relations or racism. I think in a lot of ways that it's a movie that was, and I don't hate to say this, but like it is a product of being made when it was made. So obviously it's gonna have some probably less than stellar portrayals of black people. Because that's one thing that people talk about too, is that like the way it portrays like a lot of black characters in the movie are, negative. They're seen as being, very unintelligent, as being just, being uh, just like slaves with no character. And besides Mammy, I guess, not guess. I mean, that is true. Like there really aren't any black characters outside of Mammy that you can really look at and say are actual characters. I mean, there's Prissy, who is yeah. No, okay. I will say Prissy is I know she is a I know she's god damn. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I know I don't think she's a bad character, but god damn, I could not stand that. I could not fucking stand her. And it's a combination of the fucking helium squeaked up voice, the fact that she just would not shut the fuck up half the time, the fact that she I don't know, like it seemed like every time she was in a situation, she would just not make it worse, but just would be fucking useless in it. And I mean, I'm trying to say this in a way because like I know that she it's not like she's a bad character, but god damn, she is just fucking less than an ideal character to be stuck with for most of the movie, because Prissy is a character that we're stuck with for most of the movie. Like Mammy stays at home, and then Prissy's the one we're stuck with. And it got to the point where I was like, God damn it, man! Why do we have to be stuck with her? Like, can we get Mammy back? Like, fuck. And when Mammy came back, I was like, fucking finally, we can get rid of fucking Prissy. Because god damn it, man. Okay, I don't think she should have been slapped. Okay, that's kind of being dishonest, but I do think that by that point, I think that it was justified for her to be yeah, okay. I think it was justified. I don't think I don't think there was any way I could have possibly worded that to not sound horrible. Like I know she's I don't know, like, does the film make it? Because I've heard that she's supposed to be mentally challenged or something like that, and I could see that if that's the case. And that's why I feel that's why I'm reluctant of trying to be very critical of her, because like I've read that before, that like that Prissy is supposed to be like a mentally challenged character, and if that's the case, I would feel bad trying to just fucking go off on her. But I will say Prissy's not a bad character, but she's a character that if she was very less prominently shown, I would not have had an issue with it. Let's say that. But outside of that, outside of the characters, Scarlet, Scarlet, and she didn't learn her. She did not learn any fucking lesson throughout the whole film. It's actually shocking. I guess we should talk about Scarlet now. It's actually kind of shocking that I don't know if I've seen a few films where a character has had such a lack of a character arc when they should. It's fascinating. Um, and for me, Scarlet, I don't dislike her, but the fact that she pretty much did not learn anything by the time the movie was over, I'm like, God damn it, man! Like after all you've been through, after everything that's happened, you've pretty much like had no actual change in your perception. You are pretty much the same character as you were at the beginning. And that's just fucking wild. But even outside of the characters, and outside of the whole pro slavery and all that, like I don't really feel that this movie has much like in it that would really warrant it to be like considered a banned film. Like again, like I'm not for banning films to begin with, but if we're going to be talking about banning films, I don't think this film should even be really in the conversation for it because outside of being too long, that's my only real criticism. Like, I feel like this movie, when it gets to the intermission part, could have easily been ended. Like, I think you could have ended the movie way quicker than you did. I don't think this movie needed to be fucking damn near 3 hours long. Like, I think that's my main criticism is like the movie's too fucking long. I think you could have ended it way earlier. And outside of that, and outside of not really liking Scarlett and being stuck with Scarlett for 3 hours and stuck with Prissy for 3 hours, I mean, really, that's my main problem. Is like we're stuck with like the worst combination of characters on top of being 3 hours long, and the one character that is a good character is like gone for like half of it. To me, that's like the worst part of this movie. Is like we are stuck with very not likable characters for a very long part of the movie, and then it's a very long movie on top of that. It's just the worst combination. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Gone with the Wind. Like, and also kind of like Song of the South. Like, I was really excited to see like what all the talk was about. Like what was all the controversy and all the debate back and forth about should this be banned, should it not be banned. And after watching it, I'm like, I don't really get the talk. I don't really get the controversy. Like, I get people have issues with Mammy. Like, I'm not saying that I don't see why people would have issues with this movie, but I don't see why people think that this movie is like such a horribly offensive movie that it needs to be banned and removed completely. Like, I strongly disagree with that. This film should definitely not be banned. And this film, to me, doesn't really have anything that really validates it being banned. Like I don't really get what this like why this movie would be banned. And I like again, I know the arguments for it, but after watching the movie, I really don't think those are valid arguments. I don't really think that the reasons people put forward for this movie being banned are actually valid reasons. I think that this film is perfectly fine. Like I don't think this film should really be even considered for it. And also the fact that this film has a what do you call it? It has a and this is like the first film out of all the films I have watched. It has that disclaimer at the beginning. Kind of like detailing the history of the film and all that. And like I guess like if you want to do that, that's fine. Like if you feel like a film is just so horribly offensive that you need to put a disclaimer, I guess do that. Like I'd much rather have a disclaimer than just have a film completely erased from history to where you just can't watch it anymore. So I mean, yeah, that's my thoughts on Gone with the Wind. Both Gone with the Wind and Song of the South were very underwhelming films that are still highly talked about films. But the one film that lives up to the hype, and this film, so here's what's wild to me: Song of the South is just shockingly inoffensive. Gone with the Wind is okay. It's a fine movie. And both of those movies are known for the racial aspects of the film, the racial controversies. Because they're viewed as being pro-slavery. They're viewed as being very dehumanizing to black people. And the fact that these two movies are, either removed pretty much from the internet where you can't watch them, or they're like argued that they should be banned. The fact that Goodbye Uncle Tom is a movie that, as far as I'm aware, to this day, you can go on YouTube and look at for free is fucking shocking. Like that movie to this day is one of the most I would say as one of the most disturbing movies I've watched. It might not crack the top three, but it's in the top 10. Like that movie is fucking up there. And that movie, similar to Gone with the Wind and Song of the South, has a lot of dehumanization, or like how it's argued about why this would need to be banned. Unlike those two, Goodbye Uncle Tom, it is a shockingly graphic and arguably exploitable film about black people, and it's a film that nobody talks about. Like I've seen nobody talk about this film. Goodbye Uncle Tom is a film that when I mention to people, nobody knows what I'm talking about, and that's fucking wild to me because this film, compared to Song of the South and Goodbye Uncle Tom, this is Gone with the Wind is like Forrest Gump. Is like Forrest Gump. And this film is like fucking Apocalypse Now. Like it is like night and day. Like that's a comparison. Like if people think that those two films are offensive, then this film should be fucking erased from existence completely. Like if that's how people are arguing about these films, this film should be completely removed. And so I watched this film for the first time, I think about about 9 years ago. I watched this film 9 years ago, and it was fucking horrifying back then. Like it is very explicit, with showing chattel slavery, showing the fucking just very graphic, brutal depictions of it. From like the sexual exploitation, the just exploitations of like enslaving people is very graphically shown. Like it almost makes you feel like you're there. Like this film makes you like it really does almost like it feels like a time capsule. Like you're actually there watching this go on. But also, I kind of have a weird perception of this movie, or a weird take on this movie, because when I first saw this movie, I didn't want to. Well, yeah, I did actually. I was like, this film is fucking just beyond racist. Like, this is an actual racist film. And I rewatched it last year, and my perception has kind of changed a little bit because I feel like it is, despite all of the exploitive material in it, I think that this film, in a weird way, is a anti. I wouldn't say it's an anti-racist film, but I think it's a critique of the white population, or the white society that sustained and benefited from slavery back then. Because one of the things I found interesting when I was rewatching it is it goes into detail about kind of the hypocrisies of whites during this time that were in the system. Like, because the whole, I guess I should probably explain what this movie is, because I don't think most people probably know what the fuck this movie is. So the synopsis for this movie is that two journalists time travel and go back in time to during slavery, and like pretty much do like a documentary of like life back then, and interview both slaves and people during that time. Now I know the premise sounds like something from a fucking D-list comic book movie, but it's actually well done and how it's pulled off. But I thought it was interesting because one of the most interesting parts in the movie is that you'll have like these white like slavers, or I don't know what, like I'm not slave. I guess like just, I don't want to say it's like just white people in general, but like just like I guess, yeah, I guess you could call them as like white slavers pretty much. Like the journalists will like interview one of them, and they'll talk about like how black people are like they're animals, and they're creatures, and you have to enslave them because they're like just these inferior animals that have to be tamed, and they have to be exploited for slavery. But at the same time that they're talking about how black people are inferior, and they're not human, and that this is their role in life, they are actively interested and sexually, and arguably romantically, in black people. Like one of the most unintentionally funniest parts of the films is that there's a there's a scene where a group of white women are talking about how slaves have noticeably become lighter as they have as they've been in America. Like they thought it's weird or fascinating how like now you have slaves that have like blonde hair and blue eyes and light skin opposed to being just dark with kinky hair and the brown or black eyes. And they're reading an article where it's like pretty much talking about how like white men were sleeping with black women, black slaves pretty much. And these white women were like just beyond taking offense by it. They're like, there is absolutely no way that that our husbands would ever have sex with those types of creatures. And then you look at the slaves that are like serving them, and they look shockingly similar, like damn near identical to their husbands. Like they got the same type of hair, they got pretty much similar type of skin color. It's just funny, like how these women were so oblivious to the fact that while they're while they perceived like black people to be inferior and beneath them, and how their husbands and white men would just never, absolutely never have anything to do with black women. The next scene is a group of white men in a fucking like penthouse, or like what you'd consider a penthouse back then, talking about how they love fucking black women, and how they really like actually fucking black women being with them opposed to white women, which I think is also like an interesting an interesting hypocrisy that this film kind of goes into, of like how while the society, like this society, exploited and dehumanized black people, it also was highly interested in them. Even like the white women, how white women would want to sexually exploit black men and black boys, but at the same time trying to posture some type of weird morality or some weird moral superiority, like we're more moral and more intellectually superior to these lower creatures, while we're also indulging in the most immoral, horrific acts possible. I think it's interesting how the movie captures that. Like it really kind of shows that duality of the whites, the white society posturing themselves as being, morally superior, genetically superior, and intellectually superior, but then also indulging in the most immoral and the most corrupt type of, type of vice as possible. I think that's interesting. But as far as the film as a whole, I after rewatching it, I have a weirder not how do I put this, like an appreciation for it, but also like I know that the whole backstory of the film is atrocious. Like I know there was a whole controversy with the filmmakers that made the film, where they exploited the actors and the talent that's in the film. The working conditions, I guess, were harsh. Well, not I guess, they were fucking horrible. But the one thing about this film that I think is interesting is that this film was so controversial at the time that David Duke, the head of the clan, or like the Grand Wizard of the clan at the time, was in favor of this film being banned, because of he thought that this was going to be a film that could potentially cause like a race war. It was like that. It was that type of that level of controversial. And to me, like the fact that this film is not talked about at all, like I've seen nobody talk about it. And this film is along the lines of Song of the South and Gone with the Wind, and nobody cares. Like nobody talks about this film. And you can watch this for free. Like I cannot, like that's what I can't understand. Like, how is it that you can watch this film for free? And if I challenge anyone, if you can somehow watch Song of the South and watch Gone with the Wind, watch those two movies and watch Goodbye Uncle Tom, and tell me that those two films are in any way more offensive, more exploitive than Goodbye Uncle Tom. I challenge anyone to do that. I am willing to bet that nobody will come back from watching these three films and saying that Goodbye Uncle Tom is the least problematic of these films. And again, I'm not for banning films, but if we're going to be talking about films that need to be like considered banned films or like should be in a discussion for it, this fucking film should be up there. Like this film should have been up there since it came out in the fucking 70s. And like nobody has even discussed this film once. Like I've not seen a single outlet talk about this film. I've not seen a single studio talk about this film. It just kind of is there, and you can watch it for free. And that's my thing is like I you can't even watch Song of the South, a lighthearted, boring milk toast Disney film that just has black people in the 1800s. You can't watch that for free, but you can watch Goodbye Uncle Tom. You know that people want that get Gone with the Wind band, but they have nothing to say about this film. That's just fucking to me, that's just fucking wild to me. I just do not understand why no one is talking about this film, and I can't figure out a reason. Like, I don't know if it's just because this film is a foreign film, because it's not an English film. So the film is weird because it's dubbed in English, but it's actually in a different language, and there's different versions of it. So I don't know if it's because it's a foreign film, because this is the only of the three films that I've talked about today. This is the only non-American film, and I don't even know I'm not even sure what studio owns this film. Like, I don't even know if it's even owned by. It could just be a fucking public domain film, which is why it's for free on YouTube. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that this isn't a like an actual American film. And it's not with like an American studio like Warner Brothers, Disney, Fox. Like that could be the case. I'm not sure, but it's just I just really thought about that after I was able to watch all these films and really, rewatch Give Uncle Tom, I thought, God damn, like how is this film avoided any controversy, but these other two films are being fucking raked over the coals? I just cannot fucking rationalize that. But yeah, I think I've taken up enough of your guys' time going on about this, but that was just my little kind of assessment of these films that while two are highly talked about, one is pretty much just like left under the radar for some reason. But with that said, I think I'm going to end this episode here. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you guys are going to stay safe out there till next time, and I will see you for the next episode.